In July 2018, Japanese veteran and favorite of the oldfags Takanori Gomi scored a spectacular victory at the Rising tournament by knocking out Melvin Gilard. With this victory, he finally broke his unfortunate streak of 6 defeats in a row, which lasted for as long as 4 years. Although if you look many years back and remember the peak time of the Japanese, he was simply unstoppable and was considered one of the strongest lightweights in the world, and exactly this, the brightest period of his career, we'll remember today. Gomi began his fighting career in boxing, where he joined at the age of 16, but this wasn't the main thing, but just one of his hobbies, since in addition to this, Takanori was involved in athletics and played in the baseball team. His next serious passion was wrestling and catch wrestling, and in this he did well, 4 times becoming the champion of All Japan Combat Wrestling, and in 2011 he won the ADCC Asia tournament. So with this background, wrestling and boxing, Gomi started participating in Shooto amateur fights, and in 1998 he fought his first pro fight, defeating Hiroshi Tsuruya by unanimous decision. 2 months later, Takanori fought his second fight, and this time he did it much faster, finishing his opponent in the second round. After Takanori got his third Shooto decision win, he went on a business trip to Hawaii, and the Super Bowl tournament happened and he choked there Steven Pelling. And then he also dealt with Johnny Eduardo at the Vale Tudo Japan 99 tournament. Although not even this submission became the most striking episode of that evening, but how Gomi, running away to the locker room, high-fived his fans in a peculiar way. Returning to Shooto and bringing his record to 9-0, Gomi got the opportunity to fight for the lightweight title, and his opponent was the iconic Japanese grappler Romino Sato. This fight lasted all allowed 3 rounds of 5 minutes, while Gomi did more to win, and at the end of the fight it was his hand that was raised and he won his first championship belt. Despite the spectacular style of Fireball Kid, this is the nickname Takanori has got, most of his fights in Shooto he won by decision. Although of course there were also early victories, for example in a fight with Nick Ertel or a guy whose name I could not pronounce. In August 2003, Takanori lost his championship belt to Joachim Hansen by decision, and it was this fact that pushed Gomi to move on and he left Shooto. The Japanese went to Rumble in the Rock in Hawaii, where he faced rising local star and UFC champion BJ Penn. Penn at that time was probably the best lightweight in the world. He showed Gomi from the very first seconds that something more serious awaits him in this fight than to beat unknown fighters in Shooto. He spent almost the entire round behind Gomi, beating him with his elbows and trying to choke him. For the entire round, fighters got to their feet only once, and anyway Penn immediately held a takedown and set all again. In the second round there was much less wrestling. At the beginning of the round, Penn couldn't move the Japanese to the ground, but even in the stance he threw him hard from the clinch and threw out solid 1-2s. The fight still moved to the canvas, while it was Gomi who had the advantage and control, and at the end of the round the Japanese even performed something like a guillotine. The third round began with a takedown from Penn, who took a back mount and continued to beat the already seriously tied Gomi.
There it is. He locked it in. Makaleo's locked in. Is he gonna tap? He's gonna sleep.
Penn nevertheless finished what he started and managed to finish the bleeding and exhausted Gomi with a choke, after which some fella almost got a little bit too much for sneaking up on the joyful BJ. As for the Fireball Kid, after this defeat he was invited to the Pride, and it was during this period that the whole world knew about the Japanese. He had his first fight in February 2004 against Jason Costa, a fighter from the Shooterbox team who was called Little Vanderlei. and I think everyone understood who they were talking about.
Gomi was undefeated for the first 5 years of his career. One of the most powerful fighters.
It wasn't the brightest start from Takanori, but after a couple of minutes he started to pick up the pace and beat the Brazilian from various positions and angles. At the same time, he anyway looked at the referee waiting for a stop, but ref apparently hated Vanderlei very much and decided that since no one could beat the original, well, let Mini Silva suffer. At the end of the 5th minute of the fight, the referee nevertheless intervened and Gomi won this first victory in Pride. Takanori's second fight was against undefeated Ralph Gracie, who had 6 wins and 0 losses, while he was the coach of BJ Penn, who had previously beaten Gomi, so it was kind of a vendetta.
That looked like it hurt Alf. Alf is done. Alf is done. In electrifying fashion.
Only 6 seconds have passed and Gomi has already finished Gracie with a knee and joined the fan club of the one who shouldn't be called out loud. I don't know how much this all affected Ralph, but this ended his career, and this knockout was the fastest in the history of Pride. Destroying the 3rd Brazilian in a row, Fireball Kid fought with Crazy Horse Charles Bennett, who I think doesn't need a special introduction.
Gomi and Bennett. And already the gamesmanship has started.
A lot of power with it, too.
Oh, misses with the uppercut. Gomi now with a double leg.
Gomi spent the whole round taking Horse down and creating real problems for him there, dominating and breaking with his knees.
Dangerous. See, that's what I mean.
And it looks like Bennett is in trouble.
Yep, he should. Blood, though.
But Horse got back on his feet every time, and even once gave Gomi a flight on his crazy airlines.
And he doesn't skid ahead. Look at this.
Man, does Bennett have all kinds of guts and heart. He's going to break the door.
It's unbelievable.
Crazy Horse
This
Bennett.
is crazy. This will draw a lot of power out of Gomi. If he can't pull this one up.
Takanori was going for Kimura for a very long time, and Bennett showed himself as a brave guy and didn't want to give up. I assumed that Horse's arm would have been broken if not the compassionate referee, who himself intervened and stopped the fight, although Horse never tapped. Having already won 4 consecutive Pride victories, Gomi entered the new tournament against former and first UFC lightweight champion Jens Pulver, for whom this was the first fight in the Pride.
You want a war boss, Rune? We're getting one.
Oh, yes. Yeah, and like you said. Oh!
Gomi knocks off Jens Little.
Jens's debut was not entirely successful. The most accurate uppercut from Fireball Kid and Pulver is ready. It was already the 5th early victory for the Japanese, but he was just warming up. Next, Gomi fought with another member of the shooterbox team, the Brazilian Luis Azevedo, and during his career the Japanese killed so many of them that it's possible to make a separate video about them.
He looks really, really strong. Gomi's the man who brags some of these games. Some of them.
The Brazilian started very well, and with his super active actions angered Gomi, who couldn't stop the nimble shooter boxer. Luis looked much more preferable and more diverse.
Been a tremendous.
Just a killer double, and Azevedo falls like been shot, but Gomi in a passion rushes to finish off the destroyed shooter boxer. And disregard, Brazilian clubmates run out into the ring and a small brawl takes place. And this knockout was recognized as a knockout of the year in Pride. Gomi later admitted that he was really turned on and couldn't cope with his emotions, so he went to finish off a knocked out opponent and also apologized for this incident. But in Pride they realized that this opposition of the Japanese against the Shooterbox Club now has a good promotion, and immediately organized for Gomi a duel against John Silva, another representative of the Brazilian team. Takanori won this fight by decision of the judges, and with 7 victories in a row became a participant in the first ever Pride Grand Prix in lightweight, in which the champion was to be determined both the Grand Prix and the weight division. Gomi reached the final and at the last stage fought his old friend Hayato Sakurai, with whom he trained back in the 90s when he competed in Shuto.
Back to his feet, avoiding that upkick. Sakurai is still very shaky.
He's tired.
And he gets left against Sakurai.
It's over. Oh my.
It was another bright knockout from Gomi and victory in the lightweight Grand Prix. The Japanese became Pride's first and only lightweight champion and was named Fighter of the Year in 2005, on a par with Shogun, and also shone bright in his division.
Arm triangle sunk in by Aurelio.
It's it.
It's over.
It's over.
Unbelievable upset.
It is curious that immediately after his triumph, Gomi lost to Marcus Aurelio, but he didn't lose his title since the fight wasn't a title one. And half a year later, a revenge took place, which Gomi won by the split decision of the judges, while some analysts considered it rather controversial. Before leaving the organization, Gomi fought 3 more fights in the Pride. He submitted David Barron, finished Mitsuhiro Ishida,
Another kick by Gomi. More hammer strikes.
That's it. It's over. Oh my God.
and lost with the Goga Plata in an epic battle to Nick Diaz, who was later called Marijuana, and the fight received the status of no contest. The next stage of his career was the Sengoku organization, where he won 2 fights and lost the same 2, and then through Shuto, where he beautifully eliminated Takashi Nakakoro. Gomi moved to the UFC, but in this promotion he didn't catch fame, and out of 13 fights he lost 9, including to Nate Diaz. Although sometimes Gomi shows sparkles of his former self, showing spectacular knockouts, as for example in a fight with Tyson Griffin. Throughout his career, Takanori fought 52 fights, of which he won 36, while he has been in the business for less than 20 years, which not every veteran can show off. And although his career in the UFC didn't work out, he was rightfully considered one of the best and brightest lightweights of his time, and one of the best fighters in the history of Japan. What's your favorite fight of the Fireball Kid? Let me know in the comments. If you liked the video, push the like button and subscribe to the channel. A lot of new stuff is coming. See you all soon.